Alright, welcome back to the channel then. I'm not really sure why I'm speaking like a Scottish lord or Scrooge McDuck. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Center Beacon Quarantine Edition. Today, we will be discussing Atomizers! Alright, here's what we're doing. We're looking at the Atomizers. You can see I have 4 of them maxed on my leech, driven by my good friend Adrian Chongs. So, initially I was going to run 3 thermonuclear modules on this thing for the damage, for 30% damage, but then I realized that was not a very realistic scenario, so I decided to back it down to 2 thermonukes and a last stand, just to give you a more real-world application in the matches that I'll play here shortly, because 3 thermonukes, nobody really does that, not on a leech. You're going to need the last stand. You might run anti-control, what have you. If you want to see 3 thermonukes, let me know in the comments, and I'll just reply that you need to imagine 10% more damage. Alright, so let's take a look at the pilot skills real quick. Adrian's Mastery sounds like so magnificent. Extra damage, we all know that, 5%. Basically, I chose all of the skills that give you more damage. Adamant Gunsmith, Atomizer. There is no pilot skill for like cleaning up the dispersal of the shot grouping, like for the Avengers or anything. You basically get Gunsmith, Atomizer, and that's it. So you can see all the pilot skills we have there. We've got the modules. We've got the weapons. Let's take a quick look at the weapons in detail. That's English for detail. British. You can read through that real quick there. It gives you the damage, the range. We'll talk about the range. We'll talk about the effectiveness of this weapon and some other things. I'm going to do a short clip, sort of like a laboratory environment. Talk about a couple things, and then we'll get into the actual gameplay. Alright, dropping into my little laboratory here on Carrier. The purpose of this static environment, no enemies, we just want to talk about the spread of the Atomizer and how it affects employment of the weapon, basically. I think most people who can read understand that basically the description of the weapons talk about how the hotter that they get, the more dispersal in the impacts of the little energy rounds, greater that dispersal becomes. So we're just going to look at that. We're going to take a close look at that here. And what I learned through playing with these things over the last couple of weeks is that it doesn't really start to get erratic only once they get way up into the hot zone. Like you can see, it's erratic. It's really erratic. Some of those rounds aren't even impacting that target. And that target is probably only, 300 meters away, 250 meters away, something like that. It doesn't take a lot of heat to really get those things to kind of open up and start to spread about. So you can see kind of halfway, maybe a third, starts to spread out. Now, the point of this is that translates to missed shots on target. So a lot of other weapons, like the Scourge, one of my favorites, yeah, you're not dealing its total damage at range, because the closer you get, the more damage it deals. So when you're further away, like if I'm all the way back here, I'm not getting necessarily a lot of damage with the Scourge, but I'm also not missing. So when we look at damage and examine what type of damage, you have burst damage, cycle damage, continuous damage, you're seeing an effect with this weapon where you're not shooting at a static target. So this weapon can be good if the target stands there like that little piece of cover and will just take it, just sit there and not move, then these will deliver a lot of damage. They're very bursty. It's something you'll see in the clips to come. If all those rounds hit, you will really deplete even a maxed bot. However, it's not real world. It's not what's happening. That thing's not going to stand still. you're going to start to see as you try to track a target, you can see all those rounds. You have to follow that guy. You have to lead him if he's running from left to right or right to left. You have to get ahead of him. You have to lead him and let him run into those rounds. And regardless of how well you aim, some of those rounds are going to miss. So the potential for this weapon is really an idealized, perfect world version. Not all the rounds. It's like when you run cryos and you miss, and the guy blinks away, or he does something, he jukes you out or something, and you miss these rounds, and you dump half of like your salvo into just empty space. So you didn't deal the damage, and now your rounds are depleted. Now, I guess the saving grace on this one is you don't run out of ammo, but it does heat up. So one of the big takeaways for me experimenting with these weapons is you have to pulse your damage. If you don't have to ride it, if the guy's right in front of me, go ahead and heat it up. If he can't get away and he's right in your face and he's a big fat bot, a Titan, a Fenrir or something, go ahead and slam it. But otherwise, the further away he is, you want to kind of keep short, controlled bursts. Kind of like if you ever saw an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Arnie might have said, short, controlled bursts. He might not have said all that or exactly like that, but kind of. You don't want that. We're not dealing with recoil here, obviously, but we are dealing with spread. The hotter it gets, the wider it goes. So you can see if I just pulse my damage, it's all pretty much going right where I want it to. But if I don't, it starts to heat up. And the further away you are, obviously, the more you're going to exacerbate that issue, whereas some of those rounds aren't impacting the target at all. And the further away you get, the worse it is. So it has 500 meters range. That's one of the other issues to hit on, is the range. 500 meters, it's almost like you're brawling. And depending on what bot you're putting these on, it may not be the best brawling weapon. I've used it effectively as like mid-range support. Come over here, pepper that guy, kind of duck in, maybe come over to this other side, maybe get a little bit there, but not riding it too hard. So if you can remember this, just pulse the weapon. Don't let it get too hot. Send those rounds off, kind of fire and forget, let it cool down, come back over here, see that guy again, and then just get used to like when you start tracking, they're going everywhere. So ultimately, if you're not looking for something to replace your shotguns, if you're not looking for, some new wonder weapon, this isn't it. If you have Scourges, I'm happy with my Scourges. I don't feel like this gives me enough to replace them. I have cryos. I still like my shotguns, but if you hate your shotguns, now that they've been balanced, if you're not into those, if they're not getting the job done for you, you can try these. But I wouldn't chase these necessarily. If you're not leveling anything else, maybe go for it. But for me, I wouldn't chase these. Of course, I did these because I do it for you. But these are not going to revolutionize anything. I don't see these like taking over. I don't see clans full of guys running these. They're just not... They're not multi-purpose enough. They're not foolproof enough. They're just... They don't have exactly some sort of like meta-dominating ability or mechanism. You got to get a little closer than Scourges, so I prefer the Scourge. You really have to control heat, and you have to control aiming. Whereas like with a Scourge or something like that, you don't have to do either of those things. So given my druthers, I'd rather have Scourges on my leech than these things. But they can be good, and you'll see that in the clips to come. But those are the things to bear in mind, is the heat. It heats up, it spreads out. The range, 500 meters, kind of limiting. A point in their favor is they are pretty bursty. If you do happen to catch somebody maybe static or maybe not moving very erratically, and you give them like a good burst of these things, you will do a lot of damage. They do hit pretty hard. Trick is just getting them all to land. And you'll see that in the clips to come. Alright, normally I'd start the Phantom, but we're trying to demonstrate the leech here with the Atomizer, so let's start this guy and see what kind of trouble we can get into here. Hello, hello, hello. If you're fast, you should probably be going fast. This guy's going to shortcut me to the beacon here. Thanks, buddy. That's super helpful, but I guess you got to get yours. We're not going to get in too close with these things, like I mentioned in the previous clips. Kind of looking for a mid-range support type thing. That was a pretty good victim there if I can get that guy to unstealth. Let us see. Bursty. Very bursty. Oh, some dudes in the middle. Gonna let that guy have it. This is actually pretty advantageous for me here, playing by myself. Not with myself, by myself. Big difference. You can see we got some low-level dudes here. So, not too proud of these kills, but one must do what one must in order to demonstrate new meta weapons. I'm just kidding. I don't think these are going to be meta. You can see how close I am within 200 meters. I just hammered the fire button. I completely did not pulse anything or do any of that stuff I said in the previous clips. Never mind all that modulating of your fire business. Just smash these fools. Getting pretty lucky here, honestly. And you can see some major lag skips there. I don't even know if I got credit for that beacon or not. This is kind of where I was saying fire and forget. Maybe land some shots on that guy, maybe not. But don't stick around too long to find out with your ability down. Get that guy's ability to collapse. Pretty consistent fire here, which is one good thing in their favor, as I mentioned before. There's a lot of points against these things, but the one good thing in their favor is the unlimited ammunition. If you play it right, you know, support, don't get too close, don't brawl. In my opinion, don't brawl with it. You can do some damage. They are powerful. They are powerful, but it is completely contingent on everything hitting. And if you're running something like a leech, you know, all these rounds got to land, and then I got to phase out of there, because otherwise, you know how it is with the leech. If your ability's not active, you're toast for almost anything. And I am seriously victimizing some low-level dudes. I'm pretty sure that's the second Natasha that I've seen. You can see there where I tracked over to hit this Fenrir and missed quite a bit. Guns are red hot, doesn't really matter. Most of that's going to hit a fat bot, like the Fenrir, like we discussed earlier. I'm probably not going to be here too much longer, but I might get this guy. Or someone might steal the kill. I got 3 guns left, you fools. Ooh, super laggy, though. The lag is real. I hate Ares so bad. Come on, ability. I mean, you can see that was mostly us. We got a little bit of that. Decent chunk of that Ares once his shield collapsed. So, I mean, not a bad run in this thing. I'm not really trying to do much more than, you know, demonstrate ideal capabilities. Again, 2 thermo nukes on this thing. Oops, got caught there. Gonna blow up here. Yep, there it is. 2 thermo nukes, Adrian Chong, maxed, and a last stand. Alright, dropping in a little bit bigger map here, see if we can actually perform some mid-range support. Anybody gonna get that beacon? Maybe you. Maybe you, buddy. Good example of working down a shield here. Don't want to use my ability just yet. What else we got over there? That person's name is wholly inappropriate. Not a good use of my talents here. Cerberus. So yummy. Yummy and delicious. High in protein. Oh, good. He landed on the other side of that thing. Well, I got the beacon back. So many odd names in the game. I don't know what people are doing anymore. Had a little help from that Calamity out of June. Pretty good combination there. Some of that was us with these atomizers. Good example there of just trying to get a piece of a guy. Fire and forget. I was explaining these to somebody earlier today, and I kind of play them like they're little arrows. You know, you fire off like a salvo of arrows when you're kind of playing hide and seek with someone who's maybe at range, like these guys here are at range a little bit. Fire off a salvo, see if you get anything, tuck back in. Can't quite get over that terrain. So not doing too bad here, just staying alive in the middle, creating problems for people. You could run quantum on this setup. I find that Aujunes, things that fly, they go too fast to really track effectively. Would be super handy right now, obviously. I think this is a pursuer coming in on me with his ability. Should collapse here before too much longer. He's going to go around the corner there. And not live very long. But that's a pursuer for you. Let's see if I can get the rest of this guy before he escapes me. Almost got him. Kind of just send off like a big salvo of arrows. Lead this guy a little bit as he climbs that bridge. He's actually just out of range. Got to get a little closer. Just got out of range. I think we would have finished that guy off. Let's see what's going on over here. Nah. Oh, for goodness sake. There's always that one guy that's like willing to like shoot over top of a building or something with one weapon. You know, he's got one weapon that can reach me. Okay, here we go. You can see how fast that guy is. Very, very difficult to track with these things. And I'll hit on it again later, but, you know, I've got a really laggy connection right here. And there's a slight stutter. You'll see it in the videos from time to time. You'll see people blinking who should not be blinking. See, I just fired off like a little salvo of those energy bolts at that guy. And, you know, we got a quarter of his bot. Really wasn't, you know, it wasn't too bad. It was fairly effective. Here's another one. Okay. We got a decent bit of him. Now, I had some guided missile help there from somebody running hydras or something. But you can see we did get a little... Oh, poop, 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 poop. Purple shield of death. I hate it. We did get a little bit of help on that one, but I mean, I think it was mostly us. But yeah, the lag, the stutter, you could... Oh, hello, sir. How are you? It's a rather large robot that's snuck up on me here. It definitely, if you have a steady, stable connection, it's going to benefit you immensely with any weapon like this, whether it's, it could be Malots, it could be, you know, Punishers, whatever. Obviously, oh dear lord, I think we're going to lose middle here. Arthur, Ao Ming, and I do mean Ow. So I'm just going to let them have it. I'm demonstrating a video here, people. You see, I'm just going to hammer it right there. No pulsing of the weapon there. We just want to get that guy down. Try to get as much of this dude as I can here. He blinked out of the way. Not a lot I'm going to be able to do about that shield. Oop. My friend is going to push me into the teeth of this thing. Let's see if I can get on the... I got a leech coming in. I got their whole damn team is coming in for the most part. So... oh, we might get up. We might get up. Ah, we got him. I've got no weapons left. But we'll talk about that lag issue later. Towards the end of the video. It does have a big effect. You can see in my crappy connection that I have. I always have that exclamation point up on the Wi-Fi symbol. It makes it real hard. you're losing packets or you're losing data or whatever it is, and then the guy skips around. This is not the best weapon if that's your connection. If you have a stable connection, then it's going to play much better for you. Alright, so we have returned inside Warlock's Hangar of Iron and Pain here. We've examined the Atomizer in domination mode, team-based gameplay. We used it as mid-range support. We brawled a little bit with it. We did some static environment testing. I've been running this thing over the last several weeks now. I wanted to make sure that I had enough time with it to sort of render a verdict or a judgment or a quality opinion on what I think about this weapon. I didn't want to just pump something out like super quick just to get a video out there. Again, not my focus. Wanted to make sure that I spent enough time with this thing. I also ran this thing in the clips, and I mentioned earlier that I ran it with 2 thermonuclear damage modules. I also spent a lot of time running this thing with 3 thermonuclear damage modules, completely maxed, just to kind of get, what is the most damage I can do with this thing. Obviously, that changes gameplay a little bit. It's kind of hard to run around without a last stand these days, but I wasn't necessarily blown away by the extra 10%, so I wouldn't sweat that too hard. 1 or 2 damage modules, and you should be fine. Ultimately, I've got a few takeaways here from this thing. The first one is that it is good. I do like it. Obviously, my connection sucks when I travel in a part of the world that does not get very good internet right now. It definitely has an impact on performance of the game in general, any weapon, but especially these. So take that into consideration first off. Even in spite of that connection issue, these things are good. They can be really beastly. You have to make sure that every shot lands, or as many of them as possible. So, my aim is not the best. I use a controller. I never have had very good, accurate thumbs, I guess is how you would put it. My sons they're incredible with what they can do with a controller, in their thumb. They just, they can just put that thing anywhere they want, playing the various first-person shooters and stuff that they do. My thumbs have never been terribly good. So my aim, accuracy, not the best. A lot of you will probably have much better accuracy than I have. You definitely need to try to be as accurate as possible with these things. Unlike, cryos or something, there's no splash. So if you miss, you miss. You've instantly reduced the weapon's potential damage by 10%, 15%. If you really suck, 50%. So it's not going to play as well for you. So you got to be accurate. You have to be modulating that damage like I kind of described in the video clips. Just kind of train yourself to back that thumb off, or whatever it is you're using to fire, aim. Just back it off every once in a while. Just kind of pulse it. Keep it from getting too hot. You'll get a lot more shots on target. It'll benefit you greatly. So the thing is beastly if you can land as many shots as possible on the target. The second thing is, and I kind of already touched on it, but it is highly dependent on your accuracy. We covered that. Lag. We've spoken about that at length now. It suffers greatly from lag. If you have a poor connection, you're probably not going to like this weapon. Also, frame rate. Of your device. Obviously, I know a lot of guys play on crappy devices for some reason in 2020. That's just, whatever they have, and they play the game on it, and that's all there is to it. And it just doesn't play that well. So you're going to need a decent frame rate. You're going to need a device that can handle all these zillions of operations per second that's being performed by this game now. It's come a long way from where it was, when it started back in 2014 or whatever. The final kind of takeaway is that, and this is actually like a positive thing, I like the weapon. I don't know. I'm going to put my Scourges back on. So I've been running this thing for weeks. I haven't touched my Scourges in a while for my Leech build. I'm going to put my Scourges back on, and I'm going to see how I like that. And if I notice an immediate difference in damage or gameplay or survivability or effectiveness playing as part of a team or a squad. As I mentioned earlier, I still wouldn't chase these. I've spent a lot of time with them. If you've got nothing else going on, if you hate your shotguns, if you don't have Scourges, you can definitely give these a try. I recommend 4. I didn't find 2 paired with anything else or 3 or whatever to be that great. Your mileage might vary. I liked 4 of them. Was the best ideal build for me. I don't think they're necessarily worth it if you already have Scourges or something like that you're happy with. The range is limiting. If you have 500 meters range, you're probably fighting closer to 400, 450, maybe even closer, and then you're brawling. They're not quite bursty enough to keep up with, say, cryos or some of the other stuff that might get in real close and deal a much higher level of burst damage. But all that said, and it's kind of weird or maybe counterintuitive, but what I like is that this thing isn't obviously overwhelmingly dominant. Yes, it can be good. It does take skill, and you are going to need a better connection, than mine. You could probably make it work a lot better for you than I did, but I like that it isn't immediately overwhelmingly dominant. When I came back to the game here, I think right around Christmas or before, when I kind of returned from my hiatus, my sabbatical. The first thing I noticed was shotguns were insanely overpowered. And I know a lot of people cried and hemmed and hawed about shotguns getting nerfed. I consider it a balance. Shotguns were just eating my face, everything, Coronas, Halos, Storms, you name it. They were just ripping my face off from like 490 meters away, which I thought was ridiculous. And I think they're still good. I still use them. I still think they're effective, and they bring a lot to the table. It's still a powerful build almost no matter what you choose. It's not as good as what it was, but that's probably because they were a little too good to begin with. What I like about the Atomizer is it's not immediately overwhelming. I'm not encountering them in game and going, oh my God, this guy's just ripping through our team with these things. I find them pretty well balanced. The mechanic is pretty well balanced. Yes, unlimited ammo. However, you have to watch it, because once it heats up, if you just crush the fire button, then your shots are going all over the place, especially if you're trying to track a moving target. It's not going to work out real well. So I find that there is a good inherent balance to this weapon. It's not too powerful. I like the heat mechanic, and that you have to manage what you're doing with the weapon in order to try to keep it in that sweet spot to be the most effective that it can be. I mean, that's something that definitely encourages skill. It encourages conscious gameplay. You have to be conscious of what you're doing with the weapon, and I like that. So that's kind of a point in its favor. You know, on one hand, I don't know if I'm going to replace my Scourges with this thing long term, but on the other hand, I appreciate the fact that it seems to be fairly well balanced thus far. So that's going to be it for this one. I've spent a great deal of time with these new Atomizer weapons. I'm ready to move on to something else. If I missed something, you know, if you think I should have played a different mode, I can explain my reasoning for playing the mode that I play when I test things. Let me know. Maybe I missed something obvious. You know, let me know in the comments if there's something where like, yeah, but what about this or what about that? What I did is I played with this thing for a long period of time. I ran it in conjunction with shredders. I didn't really care for that build. I mean, there's all this stuff that I could go into. This video is already long enough. What I ended up deciding on was the optimal build, the optimal bot platform. I think everybody probably has a leech at this point to kind of demonstrate this thing's optimal capability. I tested it, other builds, other bots. I didn't really care for any of that. It wasn't doing anything for me. The only thing that could really kind of make me go, all right, I could see this being a part of my permanent hangar was 4 of these things completely maxed thermo nukes on a leech. Could you do a Spectre or something? Yeah, maybe, depending on how you like to play. I liked it on the leech personally. So yeah, so if I missed anything obvious or maybe something that, you know, you think is worth mentioning, let me know in the comments, and I'll either I'll fix it, I'll address it, or do what I can to make sure that you guys are seeing what you need to see before you invest in something like this. Because obviously it is a large investment on your part, time, money, energy, whatever it is. So that's my whole purpose, is to make this stuff easier on you guys, because there are so many choices now. There are so many weapons, so many robots, what's good, what's not. I like to be able to filter this stuff for you guys so that you can make a more informed decision. And if I can do that for like 5 people that don't have to waste their time on something, or, you know, deciding, yes, indeed, the Atomizer, this is the thing for me. My gameplay, my connection, like my builds, this is the weapon that I want now. If I can help 5 people, you know, make that decision easier, sooner, and they can focus their resources into that, then that's absolutely what I'm trying to do. That's going to be it for this one. Again, comments, let me know what you want to see next. I got a couple ideas. I'm really, you know, interested in trying to provide you guys what I can to save you guys time, money, frustration, that sort of thing. So that's going to do it. And as always, I will see you next time at the Center Beacon.